Erectile health is one of the most talked about but least understood topics for men, especially as they move into their 60s and beyond. Statistics tell us that nearly 1 in 2 men over the age of 40 will face some form of erectile dysfunction at some point in their lives. Yet, despite how common this is, many men feel isolated, ashamed, or even misled by the flood of information they come across online. You have probably heard all sorts of claims about miracle cures, exotic supplements, and even home remedies that promise overnight results. But what about something as simple, affordable, and overlooked as baking soda? Now, before you roll your eyes or dismiss this as another internet myth, I want you to pause for a moment. Baking soda is one of the most versatile substances sitting quietly in your kitchen cabinet. We know it helps bread rise, it can freshen up a refrigerator, and it can even soothe indigestion. But here is what is rarely discussed. Emerging research and a deeper look at physiology suggests that baking soda may have some surprising benefits when it comes to circulation, nitric oxide availability, inflammation, and overall sexual function. Why is this conversation important? Because when men over 60 start to notice changes in their erections, it is rarely just about performance in the bedroom. It is often a sign of changes in the cardiovascular system, shifts in hormonal balance, or even subtle inflammation in the prostate and pelvic tissues. And here is the truth. These are all areas where baking soda, when understood and used appropriately, may play a role. This is not about magic. This is about chemistry, biology, and the simple fact that small daily actions can create meaningful changes over time. In today's talk, I am going to walk you through 10 fascinating science-backed ways baking soda can support your vascular health, hormone environment, pelvic function, and ultimately your erectile strength. We will separate fact from fiction, we will bust myths, and we will talk honestly about how to integrate this knowledge into your daily life. Think of this session as sitting down with your doctor, but without the rushed 10-minute appointment. I want you to feel informed, empowered, and relieved that there are practical, low-cost tools available to you. You deserve clarity, not confusion. And you deserve to understand your body in a way that reduces fear and increases confidence. By the end of this video, you will know exactly why baking soda is being studied in sports physiology, cardiovascular medicine, and even urology, and how those insights can apply to men's health after 60. Most importantly, you will walk away with a sense of reassurance. Erectile dysfunction is common, it is manageable, and there are safe strategies you can explore, starting with something as humble as baking soda. When we talk about erections at the most fundamental level, we are talking about blood flow. An erection is essentially a hydraulic event. Blood enters the penis through arteries, fills spongy chambers, and is then trapped there to create firmness. If the vascular system is not functioning well, erections weaken. That is why erectile dysfunction is often called an early warning sign of heart disease. Here's where baking soda enters the picture. One of its most fascinating roles relates to how it interacts with nitric oxide, the molecule that relaxes blood vessels and allows them to widen. Without nitric oxide, blood vessels remain stiff and narrow, and blood cannot flow effectively. Research published in the Journal of Applied Physiology has shown that baking soda, when ingested, can increase the availability of nitric oxide in the bloodstream. Think of nitric oxide as the green light for blood flow. Baking soda seems to help keep that light shining brighter. To visualize this, imagine your arteries as flexible garden hoses. Over time, those hoses can become stiff, clogged, or less responsive. Nitric oxide acts like the switch that softens and opens them up, letting water, or in this case, blood, flow freely. By supporting nitric oxide, baking soda may help keep those hoses flexible and responsive, which is critical for strong erections. There is also another layer. As men age, especially beyond 60, the lining of blood vessels, called the endothelium, becomes less efficient at producing nitric oxide. This is one of the reasons why cardiovascular issues and erectile dysfunction so often go hand in hand. Baking soda, by reducing oxidative stress and creating a more alkaline environment, may give the endothelium a healthier platform to work from. Now, this does not mean baking soda is a replacement for medical therapy. It is not Viagra, but it does mean that by improving the conditions inside your blood vessels, baking soda may make your body more responsive to its own nitric oxide. That is subtle but powerful. Here is a practical takeaway. Even small improvements in circulation ripple outward into every aspect of health. When blood flow improves, oxygen delivery improves, your muscles recover better, your brain feels sharper, and your erections become more dependable. So, if you are a man over 60 struggling with the gradual changes in firmness or stamina, understanding the circulation benefit of baking soda gives you a new science-backed perspective. And if this conversation is helping clarify things for you, consider giving this video a thumbs up. It lets me know these topics matter to you, and it helps open the conversation for other men who may be searching for answers but are too embarrassed to ask. Our bodies are constantly balancing between acidity and alkalinity. On a blood test, you might see this referred to as pH. For most of us, the blood pH remains very tightly regulated, hovering just above neutral. But here's the nuance: lifestyle, diet, aging, and stress can create micro shifts in the acid-base environment, especially inside muscles and tissues. These shifts may seem small, but they have a profound effect on performance, recovery, and circulation. Think about what happens when you exercise intensely. Your muscles burn fuel, and as a byproduct, lactic acid builds up. This is why your muscles feel sore or heavy. Now, imagine this happening not just after exercise, but subtly throughout your daily life. In your pelvic muscles, in your vascular tissue, even in the smooth muscles that line the penis. When tissues become too acidic, they contract more, recover more slowly, and cannot perform at their peak. Baking soda, also known as sodium bicarbonate, works as a natural buffer. It neutralizes excess acid, creating a more balanced environment inside the body. In fact, studies published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology show that supplementing with baking soda can delay fatigue during exercise by buffering lactic acid. While those studies focused on athletes, the principle extends to men over 60 as well. If your tissues recover faster and function in a more alkaline environment, blood vessels can relax more easily and erections can be maintained more effectively. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture your erectile tissues as a balloon you want to inflate. If the balloon is stiff and sticky on the inside, it takes a lot of effort to blow it up. But if it is supple and elastic, it fills with air easily. Acidic tissues resemble the sticky balloon, resistant, tense, and sluggish. Alkaline tissues resemble the supple one, responsive and ready. Baking soda helps shift the balance toward the latter. This is especially relevant for men dealing with metabolic syndrome, diabetes, or obesity, conditions that tend to increase acidity in tissues. When you reduce that acidic load even slightly, you may be giving your vascular and muscular systems a much-needed break, and that translates into better sexual function. A practical tip here, if you are curious about this, the safest starting point is not to rush into high doses of baking soda. Instead, focus first on reducing dietary acid load, cutting back on processed meats, refined sugars, and excessive alcohol while emphasizing more vegetables and hydration. Then, if you consider adding baking soda, do so carefully and ideally under guidance, especially if you have high blood pressure or kidney issues, since it does contain sodium. Balancing acidity may not sound glamorous, but it is one of the invisible foundations of better erections. By creating a healthier internal chemistry, you are giving your vascular system the right conditions to perform, and that is something many men overlook. When most men think about erections, they picture blood flow and hormones. But there is another piece of the puzzle that often flies under the radar: inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation acts like a slow fire smoldering inside the body. It does not cause immediate pain, but over time it damages blood vessels, disrupts hormone balance, and interferes with the smooth muscle function required for strong erections. Research from the Journal of Immunology has shown that baking soda may influence a fascinating pathway in the immune system. In animal studies and even in early human research, sodium bicarbonate appeared to shift immune activity from a pro-inflammatory state into a more anti-inflammatory state. Specifically, it encouraged the spleen, a key immune organ, to signal the body to reduce inflammatory activity. While this research was originally focused on conditions like arthritis and kidney disease, the implications for vascular and erectile health are significant. Here is why. Erections rely on the delicate function of endothelial cells, the thin lining of blood vessels. Chronic inflammation damages these cells, making them less responsive to nitric oxide. Remember nitric oxide from earlier? It is the green light that tells blood vessels to relax. If inflammation is blocking that signal, blood vessels remain stiff and erections suffer. By calming inflammation, baking soda may help restore that endothelial responsiveness. Think of it like trying to tune a radio. If there is static interference, the music comes through weak and distorted. Inflammation is the static that interferes with the nitric oxide signal. Baking soda helps reduce the static, allowing the music of blood flow to come through loud and clear. Another important angle here is the prostate. Many men over 60 live with low-grade chronic prostate inflammation, sometimes called prostatitis or benign prostatic hyperplasia (BPH). While baking soda is not a treatment for these conditions, its systemic anti-inflammatory effect may create a more favorable environment in the pelvic region, easing some of the vascular resistance that contributes to erectile difficulties. Here is a practical insight. Inflammation is not something you feel directly, but it shows up in your energy levels, recovery time, and yes, your erections. You can reduce inflammation through lifestyle choices like regular exercise, balanced diet, stress management, and sleep. Baking soda may provide an additional, inexpensive tool to support this process. If this is starting to connect some dots for you, that erectile dysfunction is not just about the penis, but about the whole body. Let me know in the comments below. Your experiences may help other men realize they are not alone, and together we can open a conversation that is too often silenced. When we talk about sexual performance, it is easy to focus solely on hormones or circulation. But we cannot forget about muscle performance, and that includes the muscles you see in the gym as well as the ones you do not, like your pelvic floor. Strong, responsive muscles play a surprisingly big role in erectile function, orgasm quality, and stamina. This is where baking soda shows up in an unexpected way. For decades, athletes have experimented with sodium bicarbonate supplementation to improve endurance. Studies published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research and other sports physiology journals consistently show that baking soda can delay the onset of muscle fatigue. The reason is the buffering effect we talked about earlier. When your muscles work hard, they produce lactic acid. Baking soda helps neutralize that acid, allowing the muscles to keep going longer before fatigue sets in. Now imagine applying this principle to the muscles that support erections. Your pelvic floor, especially a group of muscles called the ischia cavernosus and bulbocavernosus, helps trap blood inside the penis during erection. If those muscles fatigue quickly, maintaining firmness becomes difficult. By supporting muscle endurance, baking soda may indirectly help these pelvic floor muscles stay engaged longer, contributing to stronger, more sustainable erections. Let us use an analogy. Think of your erection as a tent. The blood vessels are the poles, but the ropes that stabilize the tent are the muscles. If the ropes are weak or sagging, the tent will not stand tall for long. But if the ropes are firm and responsive, the structure holds steady. Baking soda, by enhancing muscle endurance, helps those ropes do their job better. Beyond the pelvic floor, exercise performance in general is tied to sexual health. Men who can walk briskly, climb stairs, or engage in moderate exercise without fatigue tend to have better erections. This is partly cardiovascular, but it is also muscular. When you exercise regularly, you improve testosterone levels, reduce insulin resistance, and enhance mood, all of which are essential for sexual vitality. Baking soda may give you an extra edge by helping your muscles recover faster and perform better, especially if you are exercising into your 60s and 70s. Here is a practical tip. You do not need to be an athlete to benefit. If you are starting to exercise more consistently, you may notice fatigue in your legs, core, or even pelvic muscles. A modest amount of baking soda taken strategically before exercise has been shown to help buffer that fatigue. But always proceed cautiously, as too much can cause stomach upset, and consult your physician if you have heart or kidney conditions. And if this information is empowering you to connect the dots between fitness and erections, consider giving this video a thumbs up. It tells me this content matters, and it helps reach other men who may not realize that their gym habits and their bedroom performance are more connected than they think. When men over 60 think about sexual health, the prostate is often one of the first concerns that comes to mind. This small gland, sitting just below the bladder, plays an outsized role in both urinary function and sexual performance. A healthy prostate contributes to semen production, smooth ejaculation, and pelvic comfort. But when it becomes inflamed or enlarged, a condition many men experience with age, it can interfere with both urination and erections. So where does baking soda come in? While research is still emerging, there are intriguing clues that baking soda's anti-inflammatory and alkalinizing properties may support a healthier prostate environment. A study published in the Journal of Urology noted that chronic low-grade inflammation in the prostate is a key factor in both benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, and erectile dysfunction. Baking soda, by calming systemic inflammation, may indirectly ease some of that pressure on the prostate. Let us use an image here. Picture the prostate as a sponge wrapped around a drinking straw. The straw is your urethra, the tube carrying urine and semen. If the sponge swells with fluid or inflammation, it squeezes the straw, making it harder for liquid to pass through. That same swelling also irritates nearby nerves and blood vessels that support erections. By lowering inflammation, baking soda may help reduce that squeeze, allowing for smoother function. There is also a hormonal layer. An inflamed prostate can disrupt the local balance of hormones, including dihydrotestosterone and estrogen, which further complicate sexual health. Baking soda is not a hormone treatment, but by improving the underlying environment, less acidic, less inflamed, it may give those hormonal signals a chance to work more effectively. It is important to be realistic here. Baking soda will not shrink a significantly enlarged prostate, nor will it replace medical treatments for conditions like prostate cancer or advanced BPH. But for men experiencing mild symptoms, frequent nighttime urination, reduced urinary stream, or pelvic heaviness, supporting prostate health through anti-inflammatory strategies can make a meaningful difference. A practical suggestion here: if you notice changes in your urination or sexual function, always consult a urologist first. Use baking soda as a potential supportive strategy, not as a replacement for evaluation. And alongside that, focus on proven prostate-friendly habits, staying physically active, reducing red meat and dairy intake, increasing vegetables like tomatoes and cruciferous greens, and maintaining a healthy weight. Baking soda added thoughtfully may be one more layer of support in this prostate-friendly lifestyle. The takeaway is this: the prostate is not just about urination. It is a central player in erections and overall vitality. Keeping it calm, less inflamed, and functioning smoothly is one of the best gifts you can give yourself after 60, and baking soda may be an unexpected ally in that process. In recent years, science has uncovered something remarkable. Your gut is not just about digestion. It is a command center that influences immunity, mood, hormones, and even sexual function. This is where the concept of the gut microbiome comes in. The trillions of bacteria living in your intestines that help regulate everything from inflammation to testosterone. Now, you might be wondering, what does baking soda have to do with gut bacteria and erections? Quite a lot, actually. Researchers at the Medical College of Georgia published findings suggesting that baking soda can change the activity of immune cells in the gut, creating a more anti-inflammatory environment. This shift in the gut appears to train the immune system to calm down, rather than stay in a constant state of overactivation. Since inflammation is a major enemy of sexual health, this indirect gut effect may translate into benefits for erections. But there is more. A healthier gut microbiome is linked to better metabolic function, which in turn supports testosterone. Studies from Nature Reviews Endocrinology highlight that certain gut bacteria influence how well your body metabolizes hormones and nutrients. When the gut environment is acidic or inflamed, those bacteria become imbalanced, a condition called dysbiosis. Baking soda, by reducing acidity in the gut and promoting balance, may help shift that microbiome toward a healthier profile. Think of your gut as fertile soil. If the soil is too acidic, weeds take over and the plants you want struggle to grow. But if the soil is balanced and nourished, the right plants flourish. Baking soda acts like a soil conditioner for your gut, helping the good plants, your beneficial bacteria, thrive. And when they thrive, your whole system, including your hormonal environment, functions better. This gut hormone connection becomes especially important after 60. As testosterone naturally declines, anything that destabilizes it further, like inflammation or metabolic disease, accelerates symptoms such as fatigue, low libido, and erectile weakness. By improving gut balance, baking soda may offer indirect support to keep your hormonal signals steadier. Here is a practical point. Gut health is not only about what you take, but what you feed your bacteria. A diet rich in fiber, prebiotics, and probiotics will always be the foundation. Baking soda, used in moderation, can be seen as an adjunct to help create the right internal environment for those bacteria to thrive. And when your gut is healthier, you often feel lighter, more energized, and more in balance, all of which support sexual vitality. So the takeaway here is simple. Never underestimate your gut. It is connected to your brain, your hormones, your immune system, and yes, even your erections. By calming inflammation and rebalancing acidity, baking soda might give your gut microbiome, and by extension, your sexual health, a quiet but meaningful boost. Your kidneys may not be the first organs you think about when it comes to erections, but they are deeply involved. The kidneys act as filters, removing waste and balancing electrolytes, but they also play a critical role in regulating blood pressure and fluid balance. And since erections are essentially a vascular event, anything that stabilizes kidney health and blood pressure stability will influence sexual performance. Here's where baking soda shows up again. Several studies, including research supported by the National Institutes of Health, have explored the use of sodium bicarbonate in patients with chronic kidney disease. The findings are interesting. Baking soda can help slow the progression of kidney damage by neutralizing acid in the blood, a condition called metabolic acidosis. When the kidneys are under stress, acid can accumulate in the body, further straining tissues and blood vessels. By buffering that acid, baking soda may ease some of that burden. Why does this matter for erections? Because men with kidney disease or even subtle kidney dysfunction often experience erectile problems. The mechanisms are multifactorial: increased inflammation, poor blood pressure regulation, and impaired nitric oxide signaling. By supporting kidney function, baking soda indirectly supports vascular health, which is the bedrock of erections. Think of your kidneys as water regulators in a dam system. If the regulators are faulty, water pressure fluctuates unpredictably. Sometimes it is too low, other times too high, and the pipes downstream suffer damage. Erections are like those downstream systems. They depend on stable, consistent pressure. Baking soda, by helping kidneys regulate more effectively, contributes to that balance. Blood pressure is another important link. High blood pressure damages the delicate lining of arteries, including those that supply the penis. It is one of the most common hidden causes of erectile dysfunction. There is some evidence that by reducing metabolic acidosis and improving vascular responsiveness, baking soda may help with blood pressure control. However, because baking soda does contain sodium, it must be used with caution, particularly in men already managing hypertension. This is why medical supervision is critical. A practical takeaway here: if you are over 60, get your kidney function checked regularly with simple blood and urine tests. Kidney health is often overlooked until it is seriously impaired, but even early changes can influence erections. And if you are considering using baking soda for kidney or blood pressure support, discuss it with your physician first, especially if you are on medications for blood pressure or heart disease. The key point is that your kidneys are silent players in your sexual health. Supporting them through hydration, balanced nutrition, and possibly baking soda can create a healthier vascular environment, making it easier to achieve and sustain erections. When men over 60 notice changes in erections, one of the first thoughts is often, maybe my testosterone is low. And indeed, testosterone is central to sexual desire, energy, and the quality of erections. But here is the nuance: testosterone does not act in isolation. It interacts with your vascular health, your muscle strength, and your inflammation levels. This is where baking soda enters the conversation indirectly. Baking soda is not a testosterone booster in the way that certain medications or replacement therapies are, but what it can do is create a more favorable environment for your hormones to work effectively. Studies in sports physiology have shown that men who use sodium bicarbonate during training recovered faster, had lower markers of inflammation, and were able to sustain higher intensity exercise. Exercise itself is one of the strongest natural boosters of testosterone. So by allowing you to train more effectively and recover better, baking soda may indirectly support testosterone levels. There is also the inflammation angle. Chronic inflammation interferes with the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the signaling system that regulates testosterone production. By calming inflammation, baking soda may help keep that hormonal pathway functioning more smoothly. Imagine the hormone system as a series of phone calls between different glands. Inflammation is like static on the line, making the messages unclear. By reducing the static, baking soda helps ensure the signal gets through. Another interesting link is metabolic health. Men with obesity, diabetes, or metabolic syndrome often have lower testosterone levels. These conditions also increase acidity in the body. By reducing that acid load, baking soda may indirectly ease some of the metabolic stress that contributes to low testosterone. To be clear, if you have significantly low testosterone, you may need formal evaluation and treatment by an endocrinologist or urologist. But for men experiencing mild declines or seeking to optimize their natural levels, lifestyle strategies are the first line of defense. These include resistance training, maintaining a healthy weight, getting quality sleep, and managing stress. Baking soda, added thoughtfully, may give an extra edge by supporting recovery, reducing inflammation, and keeping the hormonal environment stable. A practical step here: focus on consistency in your lifestyle habits. Think of baking soda not as a hormone supplement, but as a supportive tool that makes it easier to stick with the habits that actually raise testosterone naturally. For example, if baking soda helps you exercise more consistently by reducing muscle fatigue, that consistency is what drives hormonal balance in the long run. The bottom line is this: while baking soda is not a direct testosterone booster, its effects on inflammation, metabolism, and exercise recovery make it a quiet ally in maintaining hormonal balance. And that balance is key for erections, libido, and overall vitality after 60. When we think of erections, we often picture them as purely physical events: blood flow, hormones, and tissue health. But the truth is, erections are just as much about the nervous system as they are about the vascular system. Stress, fatigue, and nervous system exhaustion are some of the most underestimated enemies of sexual performance, particularly for men over 60. Here's how it works. Your body operates on two main nervous system gears. The sympathetic system is your fight or flight mode, and the parasympathetic system is your rest and digest mode. Erections depend heavily on the parasympathetic system. If you are constantly stressed, anxious, or fatigued, your sympathetic system dominates, and your body has a much harder time allowing the relaxation response that triggers an erection. Baking soda may play an interesting role here. Research in sports medicine has shown that sodium bicarbonate reduces muscle fatigue and helps buffer acid in the nervous system as well as the muscles. When acid builds up, not only do your muscles feel heavy, but your nerves also transmit signals less efficiently. Baking soda helps maintain a more balanced environment, which may ease the recovery of both muscles and the nervous system. Think of your nervous system like an electrical grid. If too much resistance builds up in the wires, electricity flows poorly, lights flicker, and systems fail. Acid buildup is that resistance. Baking soda reduces resistance, allowing the signals to travel more smoothly. In sexual health terms, that means the communication between brain, spinal cord, and pelvic nerves may function more effectively. There is also the connection with fatigue. Many men describe a cycle where poor sleep, low energy, and stress feed into weaker erections, which then increases stress further. By buffering acid and reducing muscular and systemic fatigue, baking soda may help break that cycle. You may feel more recovered after activity, less exhausted from stress, and more capable of engaging sexually without performance anxiety weighing you down. A practical step here combines stress reduction strategies with small supportive tools like baking soda, mindfulness, deep breathing, yoga, or even simple walking can shift you into the parasympathetic gear. Baking soda may enhance the physical side of recovery, making it easier to feel calm, rested, and responsive. The key takeaway is this: erections are not just about blood vessels. They are a mirror of your nervous system balance. By helping reduce fatigue and support nervous system recovery, baking soda may offer yet another pathway to improve your sexual vitality after 60. We have explored many fascinating ways baking soda may support erections, from circulation to hormones, inflammation to gut health. But now comes the most important part: how to apply this knowledge safely and realistically. First, let us be clear. Baking soda is not a magic pill. It will not reverse years of vascular disease, nor will it replace prescribed treatments for erectile dysfunction. What it can do is support your body in subtle but meaningful ways when used thoughtfully as part of a bigger lifestyle strategy. So how do men actually use it? In research studies, athletes often consume about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of baking soda dissolved in water before intense exercise. This dose seems to buffer acid effectively, but it can also cause stomach upset, bloating, or diarrhea in some people. That is why smaller amounts, such as a quarter teaspoon mixed in a glass of water, may be a safer starting point, especially if you are simply curious about general health benefits rather than sports performance. Timing also matters. Some men prefer using it before physical activity, while others find it helpful in the evening to reduce acid reflux symptoms, which can also improve sleep quality. But the right timing depends on your individual body and health conditions. Now let us talk about safety. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, which means it contains sodium. Too much sodium can raise blood pressure and strain the kidneys. That is why it is absolutely essential to check with your doctor before adding baking soda regularly to your routine, particularly if you have hypertension, kidney disease, or heart conditions. In fact, in many of the clinical studies on kidney patients, the use of baking soda was carefully supervised by physicians to monitor sodium levels. Think of it like this. Baking soda is a tool, not a cure. Like a wrench in a toolbox, it is useful in certain situations, but not meant to fix everything on its own. The real foundation of erectile health still rests on the basics. Regular exercise, a diet rich in vegetables and whole foods, good sleep, stress management, and appropriate medical care when needed. Baking soda may be one more supportive layer, especially for circulation, recovery, and reducing inflammation. Here is a practical framework. If you are curious, start small. A quarter teaspoon in a large glass of water once in a while is a cautious entry point. Observe. Notice how your body feels in terms of energy, digestion, and recovery. Pair it with lifestyle. Use it to enhance habits like exercise, hydration, and a nutrient-dense diet. Stay safe. If you have any medical conditions, always involve your physician before making it a habit. The bottom line is this: baking soda is simple, inexpensive, and surprisingly powerful when you look at the science. But its true value comes when it is woven into a thoughtful, balanced approach to health, not when it is used in isolation or excess. So rather than seeing baking soda as a miracle, see it as a quiet ally, one more small, practical way to support your erections, your vitality, and your overall health as you move confidently through your 60s and beyond. We have taken quite a journey today, exploring the 10 surprising ways baking soda may support erectile function in men over 60. From circulation and oxygen delivery to gut health, inflammation control, and even stress buffering, the science shows that this simple household compound has more to offer than most people realize. But here is the key truth I want you to carry with you. Erections are not just about one organ, one hormone, or one supplement. They are a window into your entire vascular and metabolic health. When your erections improve, it is usually a reflection of better circulation, lower inflammation, balanced hormones, and a calmer nervous system. That is why something as simple as baking soda, by touching multiple systems, can play a supportive role. At the same time, I want to stress that baking soda is not a substitute for medical care. If you are struggling with erectile dysfunction, do not ignore it. It is common and it is treatable. In fact, research shows that half of men over 40 experience some form of erectile difficulty, and it often signals other health conditions worth addressing, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. That is why the first step is always talking openly with your doctor. Think of baking soda as one more supportive tool, like stretching before exercise, eating an extra serving of leafy greens, or doing pelvic floor training. On its own, it is small. Combined with the right habits, it can contribute to noticeable improvements in vitality, energy, and sexual function. So here is your one action step for today. Begin by reflecting on how you treat your body. Ask yourself, am I supporting my circulation, my digestion, and my stress levels in ways that nourish erections naturally? If baking soda feels like a simple experiment you want to try, do so cautiously, start small, and talk with your doctor. You deserve clarity, not fear. You deserve to feel confident, informed, and empowered in your own health. Remember this, you do not have to be afraid of your body. You just need good information, consistent habits, and a willingness to care for yourself as deeply as you care for others. Stay curious, stay informed, and I will see you in the next one. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more grounded, shame-free health content, the kind of knowledge I share with patients every single day.